Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome James Johnson from Malabar Resources. Malabar Resources are planning to develop the Maxwell Underground project, an underground coking coal mine in the Hunter Valley. The project involves the recommissioning of the substantial coal handling and train loading infrastructure at the Maxwell infrastructure site, as well as significant construction activities related to establishing access to the underground mine entry area and the surface to seam construction activities as well. The project will also require the procurement of all underground mining equipment required for sale and highly productive longwall mine. So please welcome James Johnson, the Malabar Coal General Manager for Development. James, bear with me. I have your presentation. When we have it on screen, if you could please cue me to move your slides along.
All right, excellent. I'll get started then. Thanks to Kieran and the Connecting Industry team for pulling today's conference together. Despite the wonders of modern technology, I'm presenting from my phone and a printed copy in front of me. So please be patient with Nicola and I as we tag team our way through this, with Nicola moving my presentation and me turning the pages in front of me. I'd also like to say thanks for the invitation to present, as well as to the many attendees that have committed their time and taken time out of their schedule to attend and learn more about the projects. I truly believe it's through sessions like this that keep us connected and make sure we can support each other's businesses and ensure that the Australian industry continues to thrive. So thanks everyone for attending. Move it along, please. Next slide. I'll start a little bit about who Malabar Resources are, for those, I guess, that are unaware or haven't heard of Malabar Resources. We're an independent Australian-owned mining company. We're based in the Hunter Valley, founded in 2011, initially with the focus on developing the Spur Hill Underground project, which is one of the assets we still own, and now primarily focused on the Maxwell Underground project, which is a long-life underground mine that I'm here to talk about today, that's contained within the exploration license of exploration lease of EL 5460, which is long been identified as having significant coal resource. That project's now approved, and it's what our focus has been on for the last few years. We also own the now closed Drayton mine and all the associated infrastructure there that assists us to facilitate the Maxwell Underground project. It's now renamed the Maxwell Infrastructure Site, and not that I'm talking about it today, but we also own an approved solar project named the Maxwell Solar Project, which is something else we've got going on in the background. The people behind the company and the principals have over 300 years' experience in the coal industry. They've been long associated with developing and operating coal projects, particularly underground longwall mines. Next slide, please. Malabar's strategy in the Upper Hunter for the past decade has been targeting deposits with high proportion of met coal that are suitable for underground developments and particularly longwall mining. Like I mentioned, the initial focus of the business was around the Spur Hill exploration area, but however, with the purchase of the Drayton mine and the Maxwell infrastructure site, that the focus has moved in first priority to develop the Maxwell Underground project. So the consideration of a project in this area started really as early as 2016 with discussions with the previous owners, and then really kicked off once Malabar agreed to purchase the closed Drayton mine and EL 5460 in May 2017. Naturally, those sort of transactions take a little while to go through, and Malabar took that ownership in February 2018 and set course for commencing rehabilitation of the old open cut as soon as possible, as well as developing and completing the necessary studies and strategy to develop and submit an EIS development application to the Department of Planning. That process, takes quite a while to assess, and in October, November 2020, the Department of Planning finished their assessment of the project and noted that on the balance, the project was in the public interest and could proceed, subject to the conditions, and that recommendation was supported as late as December 2020 by the New South Wales Independent Planning Commission when they consented the project under some conditions. Next slide, please. It should be the land ownership slide. So really, just to show the land ownership by Malabar, you can see the hatched orange area on the slide. That shows the land we own, and the green outlines show the boundaries of our mining licences or ELs. Almost in the middle of the diagram is the Maxwell Underground project, and to the northeast of the diagram is the Maxwell infrastructure site. So the Maxwell Underground project consists of joining those two sites with infrastructure and then developing an underground longwall mine down in that area where you can see Maxwell Underground. Importantly, all infrastructure is on land owned by Malabar, with a very small exception to that with land that's owned by AGL, which we have an easement agreement in place to put a conveyor and a road across there. All freehold land above the Maxwell Underground workings is owned by Malabar, and there is a road that I'll talk to later, a road owned by the state that traffics across there, that we relocate as part of the project. So all up, there's around 8,800 hectares of land ownership. Next slide, please. We should be on the Maxwell Underground project slide. Okay, I hope we are. Yep, that's the slide. So the Maxwell Underground project, as it mentioned in the introduction, is a long life underground coal mine located in the east, east of Denman and south of Muswellbrook. You can see on the diagram the areas. So if you look to the north of the diagram, that's 10 kilometres towards Muswellbrook. You can see the Maxwell infrastructure site there, and the green area. That's the rehabilitation zone of the old Drayton open cut, and then down to the south of the diagram is the underground mining area. So as I mentioned, the project is about connecting those two sites with roads and infrastructure, and then developing the mine. So we're planning, production of high quality coals with 75% capable of being used in the steel manufacturing industry, and the balance being suitable for high efficiency, low emission power generation. And importantly, we are committed to underground mining, which means we have significantly lower impacts to our surrounding neighbours than an open cut. Next slide, please. So just a little bit more about the project. It's an 8 million tonne a year run of mine coal yielding 7 million tonnes of product is the target and one we're designing the project around. In our initial application, it's a 26-year mine life, and I'll talk about the initial application because you'll see on the next slides there is additional resource in the area. We do use the substantial existing Maxwell infrastructure from the old Drayton operation, and you can see on the photo on the left-hand side of the slide that's the infrastructure that's already established at the site. And our long-term strategy is to develop, multiple underground operations in the area that feed back through that central coal washery and stockpiling and load-out facility. So that fits in with the Spur Hill project and which was a purpose-built facility or road for access to Mount Arthur and Drayton back when it was operating. Next slide, please. We should be on the geology and target seam slide. All right, I've mentioned a long life project and the initial 26 years a couple of times, and the main point of this slide is to show, for those familiar with the code, there is 770 million tonnes of resource in the area, and the Maxwell Underground is in the area of the 141 million tonnes reserved, of which a high proportion of that is approved. So we have a high level of confidence in our coal product and our ability to deliver clean coal to market. But if you look at the depiction of the stratigraphic column on the right hand side of the slide, you'll see the call out boxes that show the seams we intend to mine that make up the initial application. And then underneath that, you can see more seams, notably the Walkworth seam, that can provide future product, as well as areas to the west of the mining area also contain target reserves. So while it is an initial 26 years, we are designing the project in mind of a long life project that can be producing coal from the area and putting it to export market for many decades to come. Next slide, please. Really, this slide's just about showing the scale of the project before we get into the detail of some of the work packages and whatnot that have to be delivered to get the project away. You can see the area, the diagonal sort of area heading north, east, southwest across the slide. That's the surface disturbance boundary, and inside of that boundary, that's what facilitates connection between the Maxwell infrastructure site to the mine entry area. And that's nominally 10 kilometres long, and it's established to contain necessary surface infrastructure such as roads, overland conveyor, power lines, water lines, surface drainage, water capture, etc. So that's quite an important section of disturbance and construction work we need to do. The area down there, it's shown as the mine entry area. I've got a slide coming up with some of the detail of that, but that is where we access the underground workings and facilitate our offices, car parks, ventilation infrastructure, and as I said, the access to underground. The dashed line is the underground mine area. Importantly, there is no surface infrastructure or disturbance on that dashed line. It's shown there, all the longwall panels are contained within that area, and it's an area that will be subject to subsidence. So with that in mind, you can see the road titled Editon Road that sort of heads across the western part of the mining area. That road, in future years, that road will be relocated around the mine area, so that'll include a reasonable upgrade of the road, replacement of a crossing, and a new intersection at the Golden Highway there where Editon Road joins it. Next slide, please. So once established, the mine really blends into the existing environment, and that's the purpose of this slide. You can see Mount Arthur in the north area of the slide. You can see Liddell Power Station, Bayswater, and then by comparison you can see the relatively invisible footprint that Maxwell Underground and our infrastructure will have on the area and the environment, and that's been a key focus of the approval for this project, and a key reason why I think it was able to be progressed through the approval phase in a timely manner. So the project schedule, you can see this very, very, very macro project schedule. There's obviously a Gantt chart of hundreds of line items, but not really practical to put on a slide. So rolling it all up into the few key tasks, it is all based on our development consent being achieved in Q4 last year. And while it was technically achieved in Q4 last year, it was the 22nd of December, so it was quite late, so you could really sort of push it forward. But I guess for indicative purposes, this shows our construction timeframe. So really, the next sort of initial activity is about the development of our site infrastructure and getting out and making that road connection between Maxwell infrastructure and the underground area. And then we have a 12-month process of constructing underground drifts And in parallel with that, we do a lot of the surface construction around buildings, vent shafts, dam and water management facilities, as well as set that road up that connects Maxwell infrastructure to the underground area as a 80-kilometre road that will be travelled, 80-kilometre-an-hour road that's travelled by our workforce to access the site every day. There's surface overland conveyors to construct, and then we set up development coal ready to run in the middle of 2022, with longwall production commencing around about mid-2024. Next slide, please. So on the mine layouts, for those not familiar with underground longwall mining, I'll give a quick overview. The lines on the page are known as the development roadways that facilitate longwall mining. The large rectangular blocks are the panels, known as the longwall panel. They are production coal panels. Why is that important? Because that is where we, how and where we make the money and the production. So there's over 30 longwall panels in the three seams that I'm talking to there, being the Woodlands Hill seam, the Arrowfield seam, and the Bowfield seam. And there's over 130 million tonnes in those panels. So we have our longest panel length of 4 kilometres long, and our shortest 689, which is towards the back end of the mine life. Next slide, please. In terms of key infrastructure packages that need to be delivered, that work has been well progressed, and we've been taking through concept designs, expressions of interest, and even some of the tendering processes has commenced for the initial works, with more of the detailed stuff and more of the longer term works to follow. The drift construction is a large package of work, around about 50 weeks to construct. It's our surface to seam access, so two sort of nominally 1,300 metre long tunnels to take us to the underground, and we're expecting the execution of that work to commence in Q3 this year. The surface civil works, that's a bucket of many packages, including temporary and permanent access roads, including the sealing, establishment of the earthworks for the overland conveyor trace, establishment of the mine entry area, and establishing a portal entry area for those drifts that I just mentioned to start. Some of the tenders have gone out for those initial earthworks, but the permanent access road, the permanent MEA area, and the permanent drainage and some of those things are yet to come. There's an overland conveyor that needs to be designed and constructed. While we've done the critical design parameters and we've done the concept designs to firm up our costs and our expectations around budgets, we still need to get that out as a design and construct contract package, which I anticipate will occur towards the back end of this year. We have a ventilation shaft to construct that needs to be ready when we get to the seam. So really that's a 5.5 metre surface to seam ventilation shaft that we intend for life of mine, and expecting that work at the back end of this year. And we need the site power supply that connects us from the Maxwell infrastructure site down to that underground mine entry area. So that's 6 kilometres of overhead power lines at 33 kV. So we have done the initial inquiries with the connection authority in the area, and we're finalising our designs and expectations there, ready to be tendering out what we can. Next slide, please. And being an underground mine, we clearly need all the underground equipment to support a high production longwall mine. So clearly a longwall mining system, 300 metre wide face, a network of underground conveyors, our underground development equipment, and our mobile fleet, such as personnel transports, underground LHDs, road grader, etc. So a lot of the timing of that work, we have done some initial inquiries and expecting to be releasing tenders at the back end of Q1 this year. And you can see in the column on the right there when we expect to be executing the packages of work, all sort of coming in towards the back end of this year, where we need to be, firming up our suppliers and executing contracts. Next slide, please. These last couple of slides are just a little bit of detail on some of the packages of work, so I won't go into a lot, but you can see there that site access road that I've talked about. That's the connection road from Maxwell infrastructure to the mine entry area for the underground, nominally 10 kilometres long. Where we can, it's established on existing disturbed area, so that's crosses over the old Drayton open cut, but it all needs to be set up for a permanent road rather than an open cut road. And where we can, we keep the alignment the same as the overland conveyor that's got to fit into that corridor as well. But that again just shows the sort of scale of that road that needs to be constructed. As I've mentioned, it's a high standard road suitable for safe travel of 80 kilometres an hour for our 300 employees day in, day out to the mine. So it's an important bit of infrastructure. Next slide, please. The mine entry area, again, I won't go through all the bits and pieces in the mine entry area. It's really just to show that this is where the access to the underground occurs and where all the infrastructure is set up. So it needs to that area where it's established at the moment is basically a paddock. So there's a significant amount of earthworks that gets done down there. And then it contains the portal entries, the dam facilities that we need, laydown pads, drainage, critical infrastructure, stockpiles and reclaim, offices and buildings, car park. It is a tightly designed area with lots of infrastructure in there. Next slide, please. Quickly, the seam access drifts to the Woodlands Hill seam. So it's, as I said, 2 surface to seam tunnels at 1 and 8 grade to safely access.
Sincerely apologise for that. We seem to have lost connection with James. James did only have 3 more slides to present. If you bear with me, we will move through to the next session. We will ensure that that presentation for Malabar Resources and the Maxwell Underground project is made available to you, and contact details to get through to James. Apologise, we weren't able to make your question time.